Kia ora, tamariki mā, and welcome back to The Word. There's a guy in the Bible who had a pretty rough time because he chose to do what was right. Right from when he was very young, Joseph had a pretty awesome life. His mum and dad loved him so much, and they fussed over every little achievement that Joseph made, from the time he learnt to sit and then to walk and then to run and read and write. Every moment they had with him, they treasured. His older brothers, though, they thought he was an annoying little brat. They hated the fact that he got more attention than them, especially as they were the ones that did all the work. So they came up with a plan to get rid of him. They lied to their dad and told him Joseph had been attacked by a ferocious wild animal and that he had died. Joseph's mum and dad were heartbroken, but they didn't know that Joseph was still very much alive and on his way to Egypt, where he would be sold. That's what we call slavery. When a person buys another person and makes them work but doesn't pay them, and often doesn't treat them very well. Even though Joseph was far away from his whānau and friends, and even though he probably felt really lonely and even sad at times, Joseph knew that God was still with him. Joseph was only 17 years old when he was bought by Potiphar. He was a rich man who worked for the government, so he had a flash-ass house. It was huge. Joseph worked really hard, and he used all the skills his dad had taught him, and soon Potiphar noticed that everything that Joseph did went really, really well, so he was put in charge. This was a big responsibility for someone so young, and Joseph made sure that he kept trying his best and that he was honest in everything he did. There were not many people around who chose to live the way Joseph did. People started to notice him because he was young and very successful for a slave. But the Bible also says they noticed him because he was so handsome. It wasn't long until Potiphar's wife started to notice Joseph. This can't be good. She tried to tempt him to do things he knew were wrong, but Joseph wouldn't give in. His mum and dad had taught him well, and he knew right from wrong, and he knew he must stand up for what was right, even if it made her angry. So Joseph said, "No, not gonna happen." Potiphar's wife didn't like the fact that Joseph said no to her. Nobody said no to her and got away with it. So even though she knew she was the one in the wrong, she ran to her husband and told some terrible lies about Joseph, and he got thrown into prison. He spent 2 whole years in that stinky place for something he didn't even do. It wasn't right, but Joseph continued, even in the prison, to live his life the way God would want him to live. Treating people well, being honest and reliable, and eventually winning the respect of those he served. Eventually, Joseph gets out of prison and he ends up being trusted by the Pharaoh. He was kind of like the king of Egypt. He was his right-hand man, and he helped Pharaoh make wise decisions, and God continued to bless and protect him, even when it was hard, even when he missed home. Do you know, at the end of Joseph's story, God uses him to save his whānau from starving to death. I'm sure at the time when his brothers turned up to the palace asking for help with food, Joseph thought to himself, "I can't do this. It's so hard after all they put me through." But then God says, "Joseph, I'll be with you. I'll help you. I'll do it with you." As lifelong followers of Jesus, there will be times when things happen to us that won't be fair. And there will be times when we have to stand up for what was right, just like Joseph did. It will be hard in those times, but just like God was with Joseph, He will be with you.